future lunar occultations, grazing occultations. So we'll do the asteroid occultations first, as long as we've got it up now. So next slide. Okay. Okay, this is, just wanted to point out that, you know, our hosts here, the RASC and the Canadians, do a great job with their handbook, and I encourage everyone to get their annual handbook, which has our list of best events. So if you want to see what's coming up farther than the 6 weeks or 8 weeks into the future that Occult Watcher gives you, here's where to go, you know, to the planetary occultation page, pages of the RASC handbook. Now this just shows the, let's see, can I, yeah, I don't know if people are seeing the, right, they don't, okay, okay. These are the events for the second half of this year, and we're right. We've yeah, so we have Parthenope also was this morning. So that was in Oklahoma to Nova Scotia. I guess Nova Scotia probably didn't get it, but so I'll just point out a couple of events. On October 11th at 8 hours UT, this asteroid Henon, a smaller asteroid, occults a 4th magnitude star 30 Pasceum, and I think I show a picture of that. In the next night, Venus occults an 8.8 magnitude star just visible from the southwestern U.S. So, you know, one thing, the only place where we have occultations of stars by planets is in here. I don't think those are in the Occult Watcher. I'm not sure. He did some recent changes where some things like this are added. And we have Venus again occulting a brighter star, 7.4 magnitude, on November 21st, and that's visible in this region here, you know, southeastern Canada. So that's something to look for, an early evening event. So that's, and when they're in the evening, it's just sort of like the moon. Usually the disappearances are on the dark side and the reappearance on the bright side. Of course, with Venus, you can't see the reappearance event, the bright limb events. You can only see the dark limb events. So the delta M is essentially 0 for these, but at least if you can resolve the planet and resolve the dark side, and maybe even mask the bright side a little bit with a occulting bar or something, then you can you know, see and get a recording of the disappearance. So there are several events here, and I'm not going to go over them. I have just a few of them that I show maps for, and so we can discuss those next. Next slide. Okay, well, we can go to the next slide, I think. Unless did anyone out on the net, did anyone in the other areas southwest of here get the occultation? I assume not. I didn't see anything on the IOTA occultations group this morning, but you know, maybe we'll get some late reports. The path was near Kansas City. I don't know if Bob Sandy, how the weather was down there. So next slide. And this is the event I mentioned, the 30 Pasceum event, and you can see, I mean, this is a fairly small asteroid. It's I think it's 18 kilometers in diameter. You have to go to, you know, Steve Preston's webpage to really, you know, see these charts better than you could see them, you know, here. But the path, you know, goes from just north of Austin, well, crosses north northwestern Mexico. The Baja boys might have a chance to observe it. But I encourage people to try to observe this, but we need to get a fair number of observers out. The important thing here is to measure the angular diameter of the star. We're not going to get much on this small asteroid, but if we can get a couple of chords on different sides of the asteroid preferably, then we can get a good idea of the size and shape of the star. It might be rotating fast and in some elliptical shape, not just spherical. But I think I have some information in the handbook about the a note on this event which tells how long the partial events are, and then there's a partial occultation zone that's on the edges of the path. I think for this event it's something similar to the Roma occultation, where the star's angular diameter is something like a third or a half of that of the asteroid. So the total occultation zone will be narrower, but there will be a partial occultation zone that's wider than the predicted path. So it'd be interesting. I was hoping to observe this from North Carolina with a bunch of mighty minis. I could cover the whole path, but maybe with some help with others. Unfortunately, my colleagues in Moscow say I have to be there on Wednesday, and I have some other work I have to do there. Oh, too bad. So that's what it was done here too. Yeah. So yeah, we were nascent too. So anyway, so we hope the people on Austin and Texas, Ernie Iverson is in a good position for this. He could get out a few stations, I think. So and there's an observer in Hermosillo. Let's see. Well, that's up here. That's a little farther away. But so I think it'll be mostly U.S. observations, unless maybe the Baja boys can travel north. And Roger Venable, I don't know if you can try to observe this one or not, in northern Georgia. Anyway, the idea is to do something like I did with in July of 2011 that I showed yesterday with that small asteroid Hertzsprung, according fourth magnitude star 4 Tauri. In this case, though, instead of checking for duplicity, the more thing is to check, to resolve the angular diameter of the star. Anyway, so that's an interesting event 10 days before the next one. If you show the next one, please. This is our occultation by Patroclus or Patroclus. I'm not sure what the correct pronunciation is. It occurs the morning of October 21st, and of course goes right over Las Vegas. I was sort of more interested in trying to observe this farther east. For one reason, because it's a shorter, I don't have to get on an airplane. I could drive to it if it's clear in Virginia and North Carolina. But if I have to, I'll travel farther west by air. I'll be back in the U.S. in time for this event. But the big unknown now, though, is the components of the object. Currently, we think they're pretty much lined up with each other, but there's a huge separation there, about 900 kilometers apart. These two, about 100-kilometer in diameter components. So we haven't got anything yet, have we? Right. So we hope to get some update on that. I mean, I think any update, if the orbit is not so good, then any update will probably shift the two paths apart. It's more likely than having them lined up with such a large orbital radius. So in that case, we have at least 4 people, I think, who are planning mass, multiple stations, and so 2 of them should go on the southern component and 2 on the northern. How will we do that? I'll certainly want to do the northern. It reminds me there was an occultation by Patroclus several years ago, I think in 2002 or something like that, and the path, and I didn't understand the duplicity information then, and the path was over southwestern Virginia, but I tried to observe it from home. We didn't have any idea of where the components were or anything, and unfortunately, I didn't get on the star in time, and I really kicked myself. I had it was a faint star, and I was trying to use this wobbly, bigger telescope. Um, it just didn't work mechanically very well. It's 10-inch that I had. But Kurt Raleigh in central Maryland successfully observed an occultation, even though we were 600 kilometers away from the path, or not that far, but it was 300 kilometers, almost 400 kilometers. Right. I almost got it, but yeah, it's too bad. We would have had two chords if I'd observed, but right. So I hope we do better on October 21st. Okay, we switch to the next one. This is a nice event, a 6.7 magnitude star. It's 4 nights after the Patroclus occultation. It's over southern Russia, and I was planning to observe this. Moscow is here, but it occurs in daylight in Moscow, but anywhere in southern Siberia here, and there are several possible cities, Novosibirsk, Irkutsk, and even Khabarovsk in the farthest part. All will have an occultation. Let's see, Khabarovsk is here. This is Blagoveshchensk. It's really too low in that area, but there's a large range of possibilities. But the roads, of course, aren't so good, and there's some advantage in getting farther east to have more dark time. There's not a lot of dark time, so this was one that would. But unfortunately, my plans to try to observe this now are it's not going to happen because they called me back to Moscow this week instead of, I was hoping to do it after the Patroclus, and I'm not going to go back twice, this month. But I'm going to try to get some local observers at least trying to watch it to see if they can. At Blagoveshchensk, for instance, there's a telescope in the master network, an 8-inch telescope that they use for trying to find afterglows of gamma ray bursts and nova, and they do some astrometry of asteroids there too. Anyway, so if we go to the next slide, Daphne, of course, was the same occultation, or the same asteroid that Paul Maley observed the occultation of Eta Scuti back in March. It would have been nice to get good information on both. This is the next possible SWIRI event with 134 Sophrosyne on November 26th. We don't have a more detailed page yet, but Paul showed this and discussed it in his presentation, with the path going over the Recon people in Northern California, but also over Texas. And at that time of year, though, there could be weather issues in Northern California. It's hard to, if we're lucky, though, they'll get it. So there's a good chance that, of course, the event has very good statistics. So but it's on. I don't remember. Let's see, what day of the week is the 26th? Yeah, it is near Thanksgiving. It's not on Thanksgiving, but I want to try to find my calendar. Okay, Bob Sandy's planet says he's going to try to observe that, so we're down in Texas. Okay, yeah, that's, okay, the worst travel day of the year. Oh, no, it isn't. November, right. Well, I have November 26th. Yeah. Okay, November 26th. Yeah, it's a Tuesday UT, but um, the um, the time of this event. Yeah, it's 10 hours UT, so it's Tuesday morning, Monday night, Tuesday morning. So it's, but it's really Tuesday morning. Even in California, it'll be 2 a.m. or something. So, um, so, and that'll be 4 a.m. in Texas. So there's the sunrise line. So it fair amount of dark time even after the event. Long nights then anyway. So that's after Thanksgiving, because Thanksgiving is on the 21st this year. So it was on the 28th. Yeah, that's right. That's the 4th. Okay, so it's before. Yeah. Okay. So people are starting to travel. That's going to be somewhat of a mess, but we'll see. Um, the other unfortunate thing, Hal Pavenmeyer said there was this graze of ZC 1566 that he wants to try to observe. It occurs the same night, and that path is not, it doesn't intersect. It's parallel to the path and much farther north. So I told him I can't be in both places at once, and if Swery goes after this event, I'll certainly go after this one rather than the graze. Next slide. And then this is an occultation of a 7.2 magnitude star. Now here's a brighter star by the asteroid 733 Mosea. So at least this is a good mighty mini event that goes right through New Mexico. So Scotty, I think, will be happy about this one. And also goes over here. So it's a bright enough, but unfortunately, the next night is December 27th, there's a graze of Spica that passes near Moscow. And then my people in Moscow want me to be back there too. So, yeah, so there's a question there? Yeah, the rank isn't given here. Okay, so it's a good, rather good event. So it occurs at 5 hours UT, so that'd be just after midnight then. And December 26th, I mean, this is, so at least it's not on Christmas Day. It is on Christmas Day, though, yeah, it is on Christmas evening, though, for Scotty, so it's a Thursday. Yeah. At least it's not Christmas Eve. That's worse. I remember Paul Maley, Joan, and I all tried occultations that occurred on Christmas Eve and then on Christmas Day, and both in the West. One was in near Pittsburgh, near Philadelphia, or near Phoenix, I mean, and the other one was near San Francisco. So, right. So there is another event that Paul had, Lumen or something, some fainter star that's I don't remember what date. It's on the 28th, or it's near this date. Let's see. In fact, could we go back? Let's see. Wait. Let's. Yeah. Go back to that one. Yeah. Lumen is on the 28th. Okay, go forward again then. That's all I wanted to know is when that Lumen event was. So it's doesn't conflict with this one. It's 2 nights later. What's the path for the Lumen event? Okay. I think it was in the southwest. I don't remember though. Okay. 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 Good for Tony. Yeah, good. So, okay. This is the list of events then for 2014, the first half of the year. that's in the RASC handbook. Goes through July. I think I think I might show the others. There's a pretty good event with Tercidina on January 21st, and Mariana, the asteroid 206 Mariana, we'll call it a 4.9 magnitude star, Omega Geminorum. So I don't think, I remember on the Paul Maley's list, he talked yesterday about Flammario on January 12th. And then I think there was Armenia on the 22nd. I think those are all both possible SWIRI events, the ninth thing, but right. Well, Tercidina, northern Florida to southern California, so it's in the south anyway where the weather is good. But the um, um, maybe it doesn't have a shape model or something. And Mariana, though, this 4.9 magnitude star is interesting. The path goes from Hudson Bay to South Dakota, but then it goes farther south into southern Arizona, but in Arizona the sun's above the horizon. Terry. Okay, the first one is the magnitude of the asteroid, and the second one is the magnitude of the star. Okay. Yeah, the delta magnitude is the second to the last numerical column, and then the duration is the next one. So Tercidina is a nice long event. This was 10 seconds. That's decent too. With Mariana is a reasonably sized asteroid. So, but this one, the area to go will be around Winnipeg. So from here, but it's going to be January. So get out your hand warmers. That's what we do with remote stations. You use, right. Have to keep the equipment warm, don't worry about the observer. Okay. There's an occultation by Barbara on February 1st. That's that heart-shaped asteroid that we resolved in 2009, the one that has a contact binary. Long Island to South Ontario to southern Alaska. So it's also in this area, 10.4 magnitude star, and with a DM of 2.7, so it's a good magnitude drop, and but only 3 seconds. So the duration. And the others we have Lucina. I just have a couple of charts. So I'll mention that on March 19th, the night before the big event next year, is the Origone occultation of Regulus on March 20th. And that's at 6 hours UT, but the night before, about 28 hours before, there will be an occultation by Hertha, 135 Hertha, of an 11th magnitude star, and that's pretty far north, though. It goes over Newfoundland and more northern parts of Ontario. So, right. So that's for the Newfoundland people. But of course, we'll talk more about the Regulus occultation. Then we have Venus in April, calling a 9.0 magnitude star. That's southern Arizona is the only, in northwestern Mexico are the only places where that might be seen. I know there were issues. No, that's because it's -4. You have to observe it on the dark side, and in the RASC handbook, I have a note that gives the percent sunlit of Venus, and and what the size of the disk is, so what you're up against for that, and then another Venus occultation on June 9th with an 8.5, a little brighter star. Really, 9th magnitude is about as good as you can do with Venus. I think it's awfully hard to, with such a bright thing so nearby. But this one is California, but it's in dawn twilight, so it's won't be so easy. Those are the good events during the first half of the year. Next slide, please. This shows that Omega Geminorum occultation by 602 Mariana. As I say, it's early in the evening of the 27th of January, and you can see it's in twilight even in Manitoba. Let's see, well, there's Manitoba. It's extreme northwest or southwest Ontario then. Southeast Manitoba, it's, well, it's west. It's, at least the Trans-Canadian Highway goes there. You can get there. It's not the part of the area that you have to fly in a plane to a lake or something. Yeah, right. Well, maybe it'd be best to get on a plane and with skis and land in a lake somewhere. Right. So, but then as you get into, the twilight gets brighter in the Dakotas, in northern Minnesota, so, but then this is the 5-degree line here, and it's really hard to find stars in that situation. For people who have big telescopes, the big telescopes in Kitt Peak might be able to do this in the daytime. So there has been one daylight occultation observed. It was observed from Pic du Midi with a 1-meter telescope. There, some bright stars, fuchsias. So anyway, we could go to the next slide, please. I think all I show the Regulus occultation here, showing the path, and it occurs at, as I remember, it was 6:06 universal time, so 1:06 and 1:07 up in this area. That's 10 there. Yeah, 1:07, almost 1:08 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. But the New York City is pretty close to the southern limit, so maybe they could do a thing like we did with the eclipse of the sun in 1925, where they had Boy Scouts on, at 1-block intervals, trying, did you see the eclipse or not? So we could do the same thing. In 1925, January 25th. Yeah. The path was sort of similar to this, actually. Yeah. The center line goes over Islip, and there's Southwest flies there. And it also goes over Newburgh, New York, and over Utica and Watertown are all near the central line. And here in Ontario, I noticed the birthplace of my grandfather, Napanee, is in the path. The southern limit is near Kingston, and Ottawa is just north of the northern limit. But of course, the prediction is uncertain. Ottawa could get an occultation. I hope a lot of people try to observe it there if it's clear. But being a naked eye event, I want to show a video of, has been an occultation of Regulus by an asteroid that was successfully observed in 2005 across southern Europe. And I went to Spain and got a remote station recording near the southern limit of that event, and so I'll show that, right. And there was another one, I observed from 2 stations. I had the remote station, and then I went farther south and was actually in separate provinces, although I was only 11 kilometers apart, and just set a camcorder on the roof of the car and aimed it at Regulus and recorded, and had no occultation. Yeah, there were about 5 or 6, 7 observations. There were more observers out, but quite a few of them were clouded out. I was in southwestern Spain, where it was partly cloudy, and it was mostly cloudy in southeastern Spain where there are more observers. Okay. Yeah. Right. You know, that's what I would like to do, and and one of the things I showed yesterday for the Delta Ophiuchi occultation, I showed a full sky map, and I want to do the same thing for Regulus, where you don't show very much. You just show the very brightest stars, you know, down to second and third magnitude, and then say. You know, here's Regulus, here's Mars, and you know the other objects that are nearby, so people can have something simple to locate things and say, okay. Right, right, right. Well, that's what I would like to do is to try to get observations, you know, video type observations, because it is a short event, and visual timings aren't going to be very useful, and especially if we can get some light curve information for. Um, right, right. Yeah, 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 definitely. And so the idea is both a public event and then try to get, you know, those who can use, who can actually record it. There were some people who were saying if they could just get a little lens to put over the, you know, the camera of the of a cell phone. Um, yeah, 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 small clip-on lenses. Hmm. Oh, definitely. Yeah, right, right. Yeah. 1 a.m. 1 a.m. So we won't get everyone, certainly. And I don't know what day of the week this is. No. Not yet. Yeah, we need to do that. Yeah, yeah. We don't have a lot of time. You know, but for those sort of things, you have to get things at least, you know, 4 months in advance. You have to get in a queue to. Okay. We have some more. Let's see, another comment. We still need to test the iPhone as to whether its camera will record. Yeah, yeah. Um, so anyway, we can. You know, definitely we need to you know, coordinate things as well as we can. It'd be nice to have an occult watcher that, you know, has a million people on it or something. See if you know, see if if Caristo can replace the big telescope images with just a dot or something, an eye symbol, because it's a naked eye event. Mhm. Yeah, 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 yeah. That's good. Uh-huh. Okay. So, so yeah, there are different approaches. It would be good for those who can video record it with cameras or whatever to do that. But we need to sort of write up that and show how it's done, you know, and things. And then, you know, if we can get the place to do it, I think would be to put an article in um, um, Science News. We did that for the Regulus or for the occultation of fourth magnitude star by Pallas in 1983, and we got just a few people observing that from that. Uh, but so, but this is much brighter star, of course, and so it should be an easier event. But we will see. Well, there have been other public campaigns to do this. Mostly, there were two campaigns in China for third magnitudes. One was a third magnitude, and the other was Alhena, the 1.9 magnitude Gamma Geminorum. And for the other one was Alniat, the third magnitude star in Scorpius. for that one they had 3,000 people out watching, and they all had a miss. And of course, in those days, it was before we had Hipparchus data, both of those events, so the predictions were very poor. And they had 3,000 people watching, or 5,000 people watching for the IOTA occultation, and 4 of them saw it. We never got a report of the details or anything, but I've heard that, you know, in messages at the time. But that IOTA event, though, just happened to also, we were predicting it would pass well south of Japan, you know, just in the southern islands or something. But the path actually went over Tokyo. And so there were people who just decided to try to watch and see what would happen, and so they actually got about 20 chords on it. So, you know, it was a close double, known to be double, I think, and they resolved it. And there's a good article in the Astronomical Journal published about it. So I hope we, you know, if it's clear, we can do something like this with Regulus, but we're really, the weather odds are probably 1 chance in 3 or something like that in March. You know, it can be good, but it can also be quite cloudy or something in between. So, bright enough star, though, that if it's partly cloudy, you can still probably get it. You know, so, as long as you can find, you know, the thing. So, anyway, yeah, we'll definitely be talking about that and coordinating and so forth. So if we have the next slide. Oh, wait, let's talk about before this, before switching, I just want to read through. Could go back again? Yeah, okay. You know, since the occultation by Rhodope in 2005, Regulus has been found to be a close double, but the companions, the white dwarf companion, is about 100 times fainter than the primary, and it apparently was not detected in the 2005 observations. Apparently, probably the companion must have been north of the primary, so it didn't show up, you know, such a small magnitude drop in my video recording near the southern limit. So, but maybe we should look at the northern limit observations more closely. There weren't too many videos. I think there's only one other video near the center, a couple of videos of that event. Most of them were visual. Question? Yeah, it was, I think it's spectroscopic evidence, but of course it's only been recently that they can actually see that large of magnitude drops with spectroscopic techniques or with any techniques, you know. So, mhm. Yeah, the interferometer out in Flagstaff. Um, I don't think they've resolved this, but I don't know. You know, it's the DM is pretty rough for anyone. Yeah, so and anyway, also Regulus has a visual companion. It's a 8th magnitude star that's 3 minutes of arc away. You know, so it's I think it's a part of I think they are related, moving together in space, but of course, and I checked and I noticed that this path is pretty close to the PA of that event, and so I asked Steve to calculate what was happening with that other companion, and it does just barely miss the Earth. So about 14 hours before or something, there was some, yeah. Um, so anyway, okay, let's go to the next slide. And this is just the events for the second half of 2014. I won't say too much except on August 13th there will be an occultation by Charon, the satellite of Pluto, but you know, only a 14th magnitude star. So it's not so of course with the oh. Okay. We have some. Let's see. Let's look at the. Yeah. Regular camcorders would record it, and you get. Okay, yeah. Um, like a videotype the same. Okay, don't forget David Harold at 11 a.m. He may want to go early. Dave Harold wants to go next. Okay. Okay. No. Well, we have that. Well, it's only 10:05. Yeah. Well, Okay. Dave Harold, do you want to go next, right after this, and then I can give my grades predictions later. So we can, but yeah, we can switch that if it's all right with me. If he wants to do that to give his presentations, I guess it's what time? What time is it in Australia now? Yeah, it's probably. Yeah, it's Eastern time, Australia. It's plus 10 hours. Let's see, they're on daylight time now. Okay, he's back. Okay, it's 1 a.m. here. So yeah, okay. So when I'm done with this, we'll switch to him so he can get his done before it gets too incredibly. Uh-huh. Summertime started last night. Yeah. Okay, stupid summertime. Yeah. I think the Russians and the Chinese had the right idea. They don't, they ditched daylight time. Okay. Anyway, so there's the Sharon event with British Columbia to northern Alaska. I don't know if Tony George might be able to get that where he is or not. It's kind of low altitude, I think. But then other event with a satellite is a satellite, about 1,000 kilometer satellite Rhea of Saturn. We'll call it a 7.8 magnitude star, and it's visible here, here and in the north, across the whole northeastern USA. So that it's September 13th. That's right. And 2 nights later, there's this Primno occultation, which is pretty good. Northern Nevada to Northern California, and so but that's on the other coast, so that's 2 nights later. But we have this, this is one of the brighter stars next year that's occulted by anything outside of the moon. so, and that should be it has a good delta. 2.5 magnitude drop. Rhea is not that bright of a moon. And I don't remember what the configuration was. I know I checked that. You check the configuration, make sure that the satellite is not behind or in front of Saturn, and it's not. I think the separation was pretty good. So we hope we have some good fall weather then. And there's other events here. That's sort of later in the year. We might have maybe we could have our IOTA meeting around that event. But we probably want to go, have the Western IOTA meeting next year. We'll debate what to do. And then another big event next year is Juno on November 20th. Calling this large asteroid, calling a 9.1 magnitude, or 7.4 magnitude star. I mean, the asteroid's 9th magnitude, but of course the star is much brighter, so there's the 1.9 magnitude. This was already discussed by Paul. Okay, sorry. So that Juno event is across southern Canada, as we saw. I think we showed that last year, and also over Maine, and part of New Hampshire and Vermont are in the path too. And Liberatrix is another pretty good event that Southern California to southwestern Texas. I think that's a Slurry event, a possibility that is. Okay. So anyway, all these events are in the RASC handbook. The one for 2014 should be appearing within a month, I think. So it's not available yet, but it will be soon. And you can get these slides. These slides, of course, are on the presentations website. So you can see them a little better than just the online view here. You can, they are higher resolution images when you actually download the PowerPoint. So um, I think that may be the end. Could you see the next slide, please? Okay, this just shows the Juno event, showing how it's kind of low altitude in Alberta and British Columbia. With such a bright star, you can see it as soon as it gets a few degrees above the horizon. And with nice flat plains of Alberta there, if it's clear. But all of southern Canada has a good shot at it. And then, unfortunately, not. Well, it's good for looking for satellites here in Toronto, but the people in Ottawa and Montreal are, of course, right in the path. Okay. Okay. Good. Right. Right. Yeah, could you set up a station there and set it up to run remotely, and then you could drive north with a binocular system or something, and with a small telescope and get 2 chords. Yeah. So encourage people to do that. I mean, these molded station deployments are great, but they take an awful lot of work, and there aren't very many of us who are dedicated enough to do that. But if we can get more people doing 2 stations, running one from home as a remote, and then going mobile and getting another, 10 kilometers away, 2 chords is always much better than 1. We have, as Brad showed, the majority of our events are just single chord events. If we could turn more of those into 2 chord events, we'd be much better off. The Another remark about the Europeans aren't doing much in terms of remote stations or anything because they already have such a dense network of observers. They just rely on fixed site observatories. And they've been rather better than us in getting other amateurs to observe. People who have astronomical CCDs, um, there's still, there are a number of Europeans who have gone video, but still, I think most of their observers use ordinary astronomical CCDs, which a lot of amateurs have, using the drift scan method that John Broughton has championed and has a good webpage on telling how to do that. And that's been read widely in Europe, and why we have some fairly good events that are observed over there in spite of their weather being generally worse than here. Okay, next slide. We might be at the end. Yeah. Okay, good. Well, let's try to reconfigure for Dave Harold to give his presentations then, and then we will pick up.